there are going to be challenges. There are going to be problems along the way. And are you going to retreat from them? Are you going to stay at the same level? Or are you going to grow through that challenge? Hello, Amira Alvarez here. And for this episode of the Unstoppable Woman podcast, we are going to be diving into applying the laws of the universe and giving you a real-time example of how I use these laws on a daily basis to manage the challenges that come up in business, because there will be challenges. And you know what? These challenges are how we grow. Do we love them? Do we think that they're the best thing ever? Sometimes you can flip that switch pretty darn quickly. And I'm hoping that you learn how to do that. And of course, we don't want challenges. We want smooth sailing. But how quickly can you turn your challenges into smooth sailing? That's the rub. And that's what using the laws helps you do. Let me clarify this a little bit here. So the way we grow and become more in this life, in growth in your business, growth in your personal life, it's the same in this context, is that you rise to the next level. Rise to the next level of awareness, rise to the next level of capability, self-worth, action, and you do that next level thing. You have a next level perception of yourself, and you do that next level thing, and you get it done. Now, there's two ways that can be inspired. One is desire. I talk a lot about desire. Desire is causative. It's what draws you forward. It says, I have a burning desire for that. I want that. I really, really want that. So I will move mountains to make that happen. I will do all the things that other people wouldn't do because I really want that. And sometimes those things are, from a certain perspective, drudgery. But from your perspective, if you love the goal, you're going to get your mindset right about this, and you're going to love what you have to do to get there. That's a growth that you have to move through. And then you become someone for whom that thing is easy to achieve because you have grown to such an extent. And it starts with your mindset and your attitude around everything involved with achieving that goal. Now, the second way that you can really be motivated for growth and to get to that next level of growth in your life, growth in your business, the more life that you desire, the thing that you're going after, your goal, is, wait for it, challenges, big problems, things that come up that like throw a curveball in all your best laid plans. That is an extraordinary way to grow as well. Because you want, and these two things work together. You want that end goal so much. You have a burning desire for it, whether it's an income goal or an impact goal or a pretty shoe goal, whatever it is. I'm making light there. But usually we have some big vision. And I will say for me, in the beginning, what I just wanted to do was the next level of income in my business. I didn't have a big vision. I wanted to do what I love to do. I wanted to use my genius work to make a certain amount of income, revenue. And I was able to do that. But as I grew, I had bigger and bigger goals, both financially and impact-wise, contribution-wise, how I wanted to show up in this world. I got clearer about my purpose as I went. Okay, so growth can come from desire strictly just pulling you forward. But when you are pulled forward, guess what? There are going to be challenges. There are going to be problems along the way. And are you going to retreat from them? Are you going to stay at the same level? Or are you going to grow through that challenge? And I think it's abundantly clear, but I will articulate it nonetheless. You want to be someone who grows through that challenge. And you want to be doing this, whether it's a small challenge or a big challenge. How can you better your best? So I'm going to give you a real life example of how I use the laws of success, or universal laws, or natural laws. These are all three the same thing. I use different words for it, but universal law is what I use practically every single moment of my day. But when big things hit, I use it very concretely. And I want to teach you how I do that. And I thought I'd give you an example from my business that just happened. So I am recording this in mid-January, a couple of weeks ago, first working day of the month, business day of the month. I received an email from a longtime fabulous employee. She's like my second brain. I love her to pieces. She's exceptional. I call her my unicorn. She calls herself a unicorn as well. And it's completely, it doesn't do her justice, actually. So she's even better than that. And she sent me an email saying it was time for her to move on, that she was resigning. And she let me know the reasons why. And there were two primary reasons. One, she wanted to do her own thing. She had previously owned her own business, ran her own business, and wanted to go back and really build out a certain channel of that she had been working a long time mentally thinking about, and it was time to go do that. And of course, I am for more life for people, and I am an entrepreneur myself. I would never hold anyone back who wanted to pursue that. And then the second piece was the workload was no longer what she wanted. And it's been fairly intense recently, even though I think we hired like 6 people this year. Could be larger than that. We could have hired 7 people this year. We couldn't hire fast enough. Yes, we were hiring and growing in the year of COVID, and we couldn't hire fast enough to make up for the additional growth that we were doing in the business. And she was such a key player, and she wore so many hats that it just was unsustainable for her. And I completely respect that. And we've had many conversations about that prior to her email that she sent me. So it wasn't unexpected. So that was first email of the day. Then, taking my shower, I'm thinking about this. I wonder what would happen if not just Steph resigned, but what if Steph and Sarah resigned at the same time? And I had a little chuckle about it. But there was a, Spirit's always speaking to you. It prepped me. I was like, oh, well, what would I do there? So that's a little just side note tidbit. Well, 2 hours later, I get an email from Sarah on my team, who has been such a great addition to the Unstoppable Woman. She really helped us build this podcast and did a lot of behind the scenes work on our marketing, specifically social media, and was a key player and, was really stepping up at higher and higher levels. And she said that she was going to pursue her own business and needed to give me just 1 week's notice. Steph gave me 4 weeks. 1 week notice for anyone listening is just unacceptable, really. Like that's, if you're a key player, that's a tough one. And yet that's what it was. She had some personal stuff that came up that she needed to attend to. And I was not going to throw a hissy fit or complain or any of that, because I manage my mindset. And we'll get to that as I take you through the laws and what I did here. So that's the context. I have 2 key players, my 2 top people. They are both going away, one in 1 week, one in 4 weeks. We have good operational, ops manuals, like SOPs, standard operating procedures, but they're not perfect. They're not, I would give us a B+ on them. Not everything, on the ones that we have, fabulous. On the ones that we take for granted that we know how to do and we haven't documented, not so great, which makes transitions challenging. And I was well aware of that issue, but you juggle things. You make good progress and you hope for the best at sometimes. So that is the context. Oh, one more piece to the context. And we were letting go of someone on our marketing team who was more junior, who just wasn't syncing with the way we were doing things. She was great in so many ways, lots of beautiful ideas, but wasn't syncing up in other ways. And so we had already planned to give her 2 weeks notice. So we have an 8-person team. We're lean and mean, small little company. And we all of a sudden are going to be down 3 people. So that's almost 50% of the folks who work in at the Unstoppable Woman. So that is the context for how I started the new year and 2021. So now I want to take you through how I think through these things. And I do it practically immediately and I automatically. And it helps me grow and sustain my growth and the business growth and keeps me on track, and it keeps me from falling. I don't want to say it keeps me from failure, because there's always mistakes, there's always trip ups, but it keeps it from being as bad as it could be, and it allows it to be much easier and seamless. And this is a skill that you can build wherever you are at in your business, whether you're just starting out, you've been in business for a few years, you've been in business for 20 years. Start where you're at with this and start applying these concepts. So the first law that I want to share with you is the law of cause and effect. And that says that nothing happens by chance. Everything you experience in the world is an effect of a cause set in motion. Effects, or results, become causes of new effects in a train of causation. As first cause, everything you set in motion returns to you, the causal source, as a result. So there's a train of causation. Each effect leads to one thing after another after another. So you want to be clear about what you are putting out in this world. So when I get a result that is not necessarily what at least I initially desire, I didn't wake up on January 4th saying, hey, I want 2 of my top people to resign right now. Well, what do I do? I automatically start filtering for cause and effect. This is the effect. What was the cause of this? Well, part of it was what I already shared with you around Steph, the unicorn. She had already talked to me about the workload, and she wanted to scale back, and she wanted to be putting more effort into other aspects of her life. And I wasn't able to hire quickly enough to take that workload off of her, and it was becoming unfun for her. She still loves me, still loves the company, but that aspect of it wasn't fun anymore for her. Totally get that. And we were still growing. So I kept the initiatives going, and the growth was still happening, and we were hiring, but we weren't hiring fast enough and adjusting what was on her work plate. Partly because she is a unicorn and she can do so much. Until she says, I'm leaving, she's going to say, I can do that. I can do that. I can do it. And I am going to turn to her that way. And I'm going to say, hey, Steph, can you do this? Hey, Steph, can you do this? Hey, Steph, can you do this? So that's a cause. Now I know for the future that when a unicorn says, this isn't working and fun for me, I need to be, even though we worked on making adjustments, I need to be even clearer about taking things off her plate or his plate, because they are a unicorn for a reason. They say yes. They have a can-do attitude. They find it, they're fast at what they do. So it's easier for them to do it than to delegate it. I have to be cognizant of that personality type as well. This is what I look for with cause and effect. Now, what about with Sarah? The other, she's the social media marketing manager that we have or had. Well, right before the holidays, she and I had a conversation, and I brought up to her a very key aspect of working for the Unstoppable Woman, which is not having side hustles Steph and I have a special arrangement because she started 4 or 5 years ago, and we made an agreement on that. But everyone else who's a full-time employee, no side hustles. And because I want you all in on what you're doing here. Now, if you want to be an entrepreneur, I am 100% behind that. But you have to decide. You have to decide whether you are going after your own thing, in which case I'm going to support you 100%, or are you going after your own thing? And part of the challenge with what Sarah was going after was that it was in direct conflict with what we do at the Unstoppable Woman. So that didn't work. And I brought this up to her the moment that I saw what was happening, because I'm just super direct that way. And I was like, you got to think about whether you want to grow as an entrepreneur, someone inside a company that acts like an entrepreneur, because you have that attitude, you have that perspective, you have that work ethic, and I can see you growing into, COO or CEO in the future. Or you have to decide that you want to start your own thing. I will be fully supportive of you, because everyone has a more life directive that they're born with, and I'm not going to get in the way of that. I'm not going to hold anyone hostage. If they need to go do their thing, I'm going to be 100% supportive of it. Now, did I expect her to give me 1 week's notice? No, that I did not expect. But that was a cause that I set in motion, okay? And I take 100% personal responsibility for that in my business, but that's how I want to run my business, with absolute directness and transparency. And sometimes the results are, okay, you come back from the winter holiday and you say you want to resign and start your own business. I'm going to support someone in that 100%. And she worked her ass off the last week she was here transitioning things, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. And the third thing that I looked at with cause and effect was the universe doesn't always show you what your next step is through language that is like an email. Hey, Amira, it's time for you to grow. You need to hire the next level people. No, it doesn't say that. It causes those folks that are at the top of your company to resign, and yet that is a cause. The universe, spirit, source, infinite intelligence, saying you're ready to grow to the next level. Okay? And this is how it happens. Or I could say this differently and mean the same thing, mean that the result is the same. I have bigger goals than the team I have in place right now can help me execute on. So that is a cause. The effect is, can I afford to hire a higher level team while keeping these two folks on? Clearly, this is an opportunity. I reshuffle things in my business to hire higher level people in certain positions and reshuffle things. Okay? So that's how I look at cause and effect. And there's more to it than that, the more causes, but those are a few key examples. Okay, next up is the law of polarity. The law of polarity says nothing is created as a half. Everything has two sides or poles that exist concurrently. Wealth and poverty, happy, sad, easy, hard. These poles are two sides of the same thing and are equal and opposite. That's the important part. Equal and opposite. Both must exist in the same space, as there are no halves in the universe. You can't have just one side of a thing. There's not a front of a book without a back of a book. Therefore, whatever you're experiencing, the corresponding opposite is here, and it's here now. So, translation of that, because that was a mouthful. Big problem, big opportunity. Those are two sides of the same thing. Which side are you going to pay attention to? Well, of course, I'm going to pay attention to the big opportunity. But 3 people leaving your company all at once, or let's say 40 to 50% of your workforce leaving all at once, that could be a big problem, or it could be a big opportunity. If you understand the law of polarity, you know what to look for. So I shifted my mind away from the problem, not like an ostrich putting my head in the sand. We were doing a ton of triage and figuring out who was going to do what and reassigning roles and responsibilities. And there was a ton of work that we needed to do to make this transition as seamless as possible for the company, my clients, my community, and myself, and for everyone else on the team. So back to the law of polarity. One of the big opportunities I've already mentioned, which is I get to hire higher level people. We are in the market for a strategic thinker for the role of marketing director. We're hiring that next level person, and I'm super excited about that. The other thing that has come out of this that has been just such a amazing silver lining and opportunity is that there are bigger opportunities for the existing more junior folks on my team. And guess what? They are all freaking rising to the occasion. I am so proud of them. I've got people who are like, I'll take that, I'll do this, and really supporting each other and just stepping up and learning new roles very quickly. And I've been blown away by how well they've taken that, and they then get to grow, right? It's like they almost have a new job description altogether. They've been taking on so much more initiative and so many more different projects and lots more responsibility. And in fact, one person on my team was like, I am so grateful that you're giving me this opportunity. And that really struck me. I was so appreciative that she articulated that, because it made it real to me what an amazing opportunity this is for so many people in the company. And I love to give the people in the company great opportunities. So that's really working. Now, of course, we need to hire so that they don't burn out, but that is they're all having fun with this right now and growing so much, which is great. Of course, we had to balance the workload a little bit. And I think we got to a good place around it. Okay. Next up is the law of relativity. The law of relativity says everything just is, and that we assign value and meaning through comparison. So everything just is. Is this good or is this bad? Well, what meaning are you going to ascribe to this? As you can see, these laws work together. I'm thinking my perspective, my relative perspective on this is for more life. This is for growth. There's always something better. That's my perspective, instead of, holy smokes, what the frickety frick am I going to do? Though that thought crossed my mind. I was like, okay, but it was only a split second, guys. And then it was, well, we need to do triage and figure out where everything, where all the roles and responsibilities were going. And I was on a call with Sarah within a half an hour of getting her email so that we could start, jamming through everything and making sure that everything was taken care of. I didn't lose any momentum by crying over spilt milk or licking my wounds or making this a terrible thing. I didn't complain. I caught myself a few times wanting to tell my boyfriend about oh my God, can you believe blah, 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 in that kind of complaining voice. But that wasn't the truth. That was just an old habit wanting to come out under a time of stress. And I caught it. It wasn't that I didn't tell him that this was occurring, but I didn't tell him in that whiny, complaining way. And, the first couple weeks of the year were significant 16-hour days for me and many of the people on the team, because we were making all these adjustments. And I didn't complain about it, because this is what an entrepreneur does. This is what the owner of a company does. Am I going to let my business fail? Am I going to let my business crash and burn? Am I going to let the other people on my team suffer? Absolutely not. I am going to do whatever it takes to make sure that this ship is floating, right? Or whatever analogy you want to use, that we're on stable ground, right? And there was like one wobble in the week where one of my other key employees, who's very essential, was like getting completely burnt out because all these new roles and responsibilities, everyone was asking her a million questions during the day. She couldn't get anything done. It was constant interruption. So we had to figure out a strategy for that, which was just, office hours. Here's a 15-minute block once a day. Come with your questions. And that solved that problem, and she could focus again. And I gave people license to go figure it out on their own, which of course is always there, but I emphasize, try and figure it out before you go to Wendy, before you come to me. Try and figure it out, see what you get to. And then if you're still stuck, then come, we're here for you. And obviously that's the baseline in the company. But sometimes when people are taking on a lot of new stuff, there's you want instant gratification for getting your questions answered. So that was just a little reminder. So the law of relativity says everything just is. How are you going to look at this? I looked at it. I gave it the meaning of like, I'm an entrepreneur. This is why I get paid the big bucks, because I take this level of responsibility. I'm going to make sure everything is working. I'm not going to let anything drop. And this can be as good as you want or as bad as you don't want. And of course, I'm going to make it as good as I want. Did that mean that I wasn't tired after 4 or 5 16-hour days? No, I was tired. And was I tired working the weekend? Yes. Was I tired the next week working another 4 or 5 16-hour days? Yes. Of course I was. That's a lot of REM happening in your brain. There were 1,001 decisions, but I chose to look at this as, wow, look at my resiliency. Look at my capacity. Look at what I'm able to do. I went into, wartime general mode, even though I don't use war analogies very often. That's the kind of energy that it was. Like I had to just be doing triage all the time. Okay. So next up is the law of rhythm. The law of rhythm says that everything in the universe is moving in and out, up and down, to and fro in a rhythm from pole to pole. This is true of everything, including our energy, mood, cash flow, focus, all of that. Okay. So I used the law of the law of rhythm during this period to understand that this is just a phase. This is not going to last forever. And in fact, although I still have a ton on my plate, we are now back on track, and it's no longer 16-hour day kind of nonstop work. And I will say, just as a side note, I still got out for exercise every morning. I still ate well. I still got good sleep. I just didn't do anything else besides work. Okay. I pared down everything else and I just went into full focus mode. Okay. But I was proud of myself that I didn't completely, start eating, Ruffles, sour cream and onion potato chips. If you want to know what my guilty pleasure is, that's my guilty pleasure. I can't have them in the house over the holidays. My boyfriend bought some because he knows how much I love them. And I think I probably ate like 3 giant bags over the course of the week between Christmas and New Year's. Probably not the best for my waistline or butt line or whatever you want to call that. But during this time, I didn't. I was like, I stayed with my healthy routines. So and one of the ways I really, am able to get to the light at the end of the tunnel is this is just a phase. This is just part of the rhythm of business. Okay. And I knew that I would give myself recoup time when I got to the other side of this. I trust myself for that. And I did give myself a lot of sleep during that time. What else? Law of gender. Everything in the universe requires both masculine and feminine to create. The creative process itself requires both masculine and feminine factors to produce outcomes. The feminine principle is receptive, imaginative, generative, and corresponds to the subconscious mind. The masculine principle expresses, actively extends thoughts and impressions. It's the doer, it's the activator. It's characterized by will, and it corresponds to the conscious mind. Now, whether you identify as a female or male, you have both aspects, both principles inside of you, both essences. I have a very strong masculine essence and a very strong feminine essence. I'm in touch with both, but I would say that I probably err more on the masculine side if I had to choose, if you will. And so I had to look at what I was going to be creating here in this time. And I needed to really activate strongly both my masculine and my feminine. Okay. I had to think, what kind of energy is needed right now? And I actually needed both. Let me explain. So the triage that I've been talking about, the like constantly filtering and making 1,001 decisions. She does this. No, we can stop that. We need to shift this to her. Let's put that off 2 weeks. This needs to happen right now. Can you put that in the project plan? All of that, right? That's very masculine energy. And that massive effort, those 16-hour days, that's very masculine energy, okay? That wartime general thing that I was talking to you about, that's very masculine energy. But this was the time and the place. If there were any, this would be the time and place. If I hadn't have done that, this would become a crisis. It did not become a crisis. There was no fallout. I mean, my, downtime had to be sacrificed, law of sacrifice there, okay? And one of my staff members got overwhelmed. Don't want that, had to triage that, okay? But this is the time to go hard, right? I'm not going to let my business fail. I'm not going to let this become a bigger crisis. I'm not going to let any outside circumstance affect whether we move forward. It does affect how you move forward, but whether you move forward. Now, what about the female essence? Well, that's receiving help. Like I told you earlier, was so grateful to receive the help of my team. They really stepped up. And I was so proud of them. I got a little teary-eyed at our team meeting about how everyone was really stepping forward and being just amazing. So I received that help. I didn't think I have to do it all myself. And then I also recognized that I couldn't be the one that was going to solely be hiring these 2 new people. And in the past, both of my top 2 people would have been part of the hiring process, but I wanted to do it differently this time. Sarah had already left, and Steph needed to focus on some other things. She's still going to be part of the hiring process, but she can't be spearheading it and doing all the project management work that needs to get done before she leaves. So I asked the person that I'd already been working with to hire another key position for us to see if he could help us hire for these positions as well. And he said yes. And we negotiated how that would work. And of course, I'm paying him for it. It wasn't can you help me? Want, I'm begging for your help on my knees. Please don't charge me. No, you're fabulous at what you do. And if anyone needs someone to help them with hiring, please reach out to me and I will let you know who to reach. Why don't I just give you his name right now? His name is Rob Lime, and he's with Leshen Associates. If you need his contact information, please let me know, but he is killer. Anyway, I asked for support and I received it. That is the asking for support. That can be kind of a masculine thing, asking for something, but being able to receive that, opening up to how my team was stepping up and managing the hiring process, covering the bases on certain things. That's That's really important. And then another way that I stepped into the feminine here was really that perspective bit of seeing this as opening us up to more as a company. That this was really like, I am like so grateful that this happened. Like, oh my God, the universe is giving me more. I am open to receiving that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And that's been my attitude around that. Okay, next up, the law of perpetual transmutation of energy says that substance can be transmuted, but it can never be destroyed. Substance is constantly going from a formless state to a physical state and back again. This is the progressive creative operation of the universe. It happens through thought. That is how you transmute energy from an idea into something physical. So I know that how I think about things and what I think about things will change what I create in this world, what comes through me and gets made manifest. So what does this look like then? Well, I am going to manage my thoughts. I am not going to complain. I am going to use everything that I've already shared with you about seeing this as a huge opportunity, seeing this as the universe giving me more, that I'm opening to more, that we get to hire amazing people, that there's always something better. This is what I'm thinking. Now, I did catch myself a couple of times, I mentioned earlier, wanting to complain, specifically around being tired. But you know what? I stopped myself mid-thought and I was like, that's not true. This is what I want to be doing right now. I am tired, but I don't need to complain about it. This is exactly what needs to happen right now for where my company is at. In a much larger company, obviously 3 people leaving isn't going to have that kind of ripple effect. You wouldn't have to go through all of this. But if you had 50% of your staff leaving, well, at any size company, that would make a big, that would be a big shift. Okay. Law of vibration says nothing in the universe rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates at a particular frequency, including ourselves, and is magnetized to other things vibrating at the same frequency. You can only attract things to you that are in harmonious vibration to you. So, as you can see, these things all work together. So if I'm thinking, I'm so tired, complain, they are hurting me. They're doing something to me. They're I don't know, what would someone think? Not loyal. They're causing me pain. If I go down that thought process, then my vibration lowers. I'm working at a lower vibration, a lower frequency, and I'm going to get more of the same there. So what I do is I make sure that my perspective is correct, law of relativity, so that I'm thinking about things from a positive perspective. This isn't just think a positive thought. It's looking at, okay, am I going to see this as a big problem or a big opportunity? It's strategic. And it works because what happens is you keep going forward with energy. If you don't use your thinking properly, if you don't manage your mind properly, your vibration will go so low that you will just be under the covers in a panic, in anxiety, not being able to move forward. And this would have flattened me 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago. And I'm happy to say that I was extraordinarily resilient in this case. This has never happened to me. And so I don't have a lot of experience with, 40-50% of your staff leaving. So it was a new experience for me. And I'm very proud of the resiliency that I had and how quickly we moved through it and the leadership that I was able to provide my team. And it's based on these universal laws that I teach. I also used gratitude to helped me raise my vibration. So I mentioned this earlier, but I was extraordinarily grateful to the universe in the energy that is God, Spirit, Source. I was extraordinarily grateful to both of the women who decided to resign. And I was extraordinarily grateful to the woman who we let go of. So that was planned and intentional, that we let go of, who was still like doing a great job answering questions for the people who were taking on her role. So grateful for that. So that's how I use the law of vibration in this case. I made sure that my thinking, which is causative, was vibrating at a high positive frequency. I used gratitude. I did not complain, even in a joking way, about what was happening. And all of this together allowed me to stay unstoppable. Yep, there's that word again, right? Things are going to happen. The waves keep coming. You have to learn to surf. There will be challenges. This is how you grow. And I'm happy to say that even throughout this, I stayed unstoppable, hiring for a key position that was already in the pipeline before this happened, that we started looking for in December. And stayed with that process, made it a priority, and got someone hired all while this was happening. Still making sales, still showing up in my business. Now, some things I had to pare back on, for sure. I was less on social media than I've been on in the past, but I have a key program, the Spirit of Wealth Mastermind and Masterclass, that has its own Facebook group, and I was in there responding to people. I did show up in our Facebook group that's public to the, you don't have to pay to be part of it, the Be Unstoppable group. And I showed up there, but I did pare back. I didn't post much on my personal feeds. I canceled a sexy boudoir photo shoot, and I need to reschedule that. There were some things that I just had to pull off the calendar and reorganize my time. But all in all, this has been an extraordinarily positive experience. And there's so much more to share. I have things running through my head that I'd love to share with you, but this has been a long podcast already. If you have questions about these laws, please book a consult with me. I would be happy, or someone on my team would be happy. We can all help you with this and help you figure out how to learn the laws. Okay, we have programs that help you do that so that you can start living them, because it's not just hearing them, not just reading about them, but you must start living them. So go ahead and book a consult if this is one of those really interesting concepts to you. You would love to go deeper, I promise you. Okay, with that, rock it out, be unstoppable, and I'll see you in the next episode. Hey there, my friend. Do you resonate with what you just heard? Then head over to our free resource page and get more of our good stuff, including our free Unstoppable Woman Playbook and Money Breakthrough System. You'll find that and more at theunstoppablewoman.com/free stuff. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.